Hey, what is up, everybody? Michael Crump back here again, talking about the latest and the greatest in PlayStation homebrew news and much, much more. So, there's been a number of different things that's happened in the PlayStation 5 scene over just the last day or so. And in this episode, I'm going to catch you completely up and show some of the demos. So, the very first thing is going to be that Spectre Dev or Cryptogenic has released version 1.02 of the PS5 WebKit exploit. And a couple of things to note here is that obviously now the repo supports a number of different firmwares. Really everything from all of the 3s to all of the different 4s. And if we scroll up just a little bit here and we look at the commits here, what you will note is that basically he just merged in Chindo Chap's WIP branch, which automatically had that 3.x and 4.x support. Now, a couple of the other updates that came into this was add payload entry arguments for kernel read-write, and then update the elf loader entry point. Also, I believe there was some bugs that was fixed in this release to make it more stable. I have went ahead and deployed this on my own host, which we're going to be running on our PlayStation 5 in just a moment. Now, I am on 4.03, as you can see right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little menu called debug menu, and we're going to go activate WebKit. So this is my own host. You can go and check it out. It's just crump-youtube.github.io. And so let's see how well the new host works. So we're going to hit OK here, and we're done. We are completely done. So yeah, so that was super fast. There wasn't any, obviously, kernel panics or anything like that. Obviously, things are just going to be getting better and better as time goes by. So let's now give a shot to the brand new FTP payload that is persistent. So the very first thing is that this is FTP version 1.1, and what makes this very interesting is that it is persistent, meaning that it will remain once you close out of the web browser or if you go ahead and run a game. Now, there is a note that there is a kernel panic when the console is shut down, so we will test that, as well as I want to test rest mode and how well it supports and works with that. But anyway, super happy to have Astro over doing some work on the PlayStation 5. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and inject the payload, and there we can see FTP S5 version 1.1. Okay, so this one is persistent, so what I would expect to happen here is that now I'm going to close out of that screen, and let's just go back to home here. Well, let's just go ahead and test it as it is. Okay, so I'm using FileZilla, so let's go ahead and let's plug in the host, a username and password. We do not need to add anything in there, and let's go to Quick Connect. Okay, very awesome. So we are obviously inside of the FTP, and we'll just maybe go into the mount folder right here, or maybe just another folder like system data, for example. Obviously, we are able to browse the contents of our PlayStation 5. Let's go ahead and maybe try to boot up a game, and let's see how well this stays running. Okay, so I just put in the disk for Ghost Runner. Let's go ahead and let's launch this game. Okay, Ghost Runner is running now. Okay, so now that we're in the game, I'm just going to leave this game running, and we'll switch back over and we will see if our FTP is still running. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and hit the refresh button here, and directory listing of update is successful. So let's just try a full disconnect here and a reconnect, and that is very awesome. So FTP is still running. I'm actually in a game right now, and I'm still able to access FTP. And now there was a mention that was in the README itself saying that there was a kernel panic upon shutdown. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at that. Okay, so we will go ahead and we're just going to close out of this, and we'll just go ahead and close the game here. And now let's head over and let's actually turn off the PlayStation 5 and let's see what happens here. Preparing to turn off your PS5. Okay, and it did hit a kernel panic there. I could tell once it finished with the shutdown. I did get kind of a flash on the screen there, so it looks like there was a kernel panic. We can verify that though by going ahead and rebooting this PlayStation 5 or just turning it back on. So let me go ahead and do that. And there we go. It says your PS5 wasn't turned off properly. So we did indeed get a kernel panic there. Let's go ahead and let's go back and let's rerun the WebKit exploit again. That's up and running again. Let me go ahead and send the payload back over. Okay, and there is the payload. Okay, and I did verify the FTP is obviously still working there. So let's now try putting this in rest mode. So let's go power and let's go into rest mode and let's see what happens when we come back out of rest mode. Is our FTP still active? And well, kind of as expected, if you go into rest mode and you come back out, well, it is no longer running. So when it says persistent, it is persistent as long as you're in that same instance that you first ran the FTP server. So again, coming out of rest mode or a reboot, etc., you're going to have to go back in, rerun the WebKit, and then resend over the payload that gives you the PS5 FTP server. And then next up, we have a brand new PS5 SDK. So it says that this is an SDK to build payloads or ELF files compatible with the loader in the PS5 WebKit plus kernel exploit chain. So the main thing to note here is that this is not for homebrew applications such as PS4 Explorer, but this is more so for the payloads that we have already been playing with. So things clog payload and then a few others. Now, what is interesting is that there is this kernel hacking support section that says that some examples are firmware dependent as they have offsets that are specific to that firmware. For those types of projects, ensure that the PS5 SDK _ firmware environment variable is set. For example, if you're targeting 4.03, then basically you set that to this offset here. And below is the currently supported firmwares for kernel hacking. So we can see that they've got 3.0 support, 3.20, 3.21, obviously 4.02, 4.03, 4.50, and 4.51. Now, there is a few dependencies that's in here for things such as CMake, Ninja, and Clang, and there's some instructions on here on how to build it. But one thing I did want to call out was that there are some examples. So if we go into this example folder here, and let's take a look at this one called Hello Socket, what we can see if we scroll down into this, it says, replace the PC IP and PC port macros on lines 9 to 10 with your TCP server's IP and port. And the expected result is going to be a dialog that says hello from the PS5. So there is a sample that is in here that you can take advantage of and be able to learn how folks are making these payloads if maybe you don't have that experience coming into it, but you do have a programming background. And then last up, there was this tweet that made its way around, and basically this is a way to restore Astro's Playroom on your PlayStation 5 if you went ahead and you deleted it. So what he is doing there is he is formatting an external hard drive on the PS5 as an extended disk, and then he is extracting the files from the pack below on your PC, connect your PS5 via FTP, and then send the ext0 folder to the mount folder. And then it says when you're done, move the game to the console's internal storage and enjoy. So I did go ahead and download that package just to take a look at it. And we can see there is an ext0 here. There's also this folder that just says Media Events Listener. And then there is another folder here that has PS5. It has user. It has app in here, and then the title ID. And then inside of it, there is a number of different PKG files. Now, one thing that I do want to call out here is that this method isn't going to work with other types of games, mainly because this is a game that was absolutely free, that shipped on everybody's PlayStation 5 console. It doesn't have a lot of the license requirements that all of the other games will have. But I do believe it is very interesting that you can restore back this game on your PlayStation 5 if you have deleted it. Otherwise, the game was gone forever. Now, if you were connected to the PlayStation Network, what you could obviously do is, connect to PlayStation Network, go into the PlayStation Store, and then just re-download it from there if you have a console that's running the latest retail firmware. But for us in the jailbroken scene, we were pretty much stuck with that. So anyway, I would encourage you to check this out. It has been confirmed as working. Okay, and if you don't know how to format a drive as extended, it's fairly easy. We can go into settings right here, and then we can go down to where it says storage, and then there is USB extended storage. Now, this happens once you place a USB drive and connect it via USB to typically the back of your PlayStation 5, where it has two of the faster high-speed ports. It typically doesn't work if you put it in the front because that's a lower 2.0 USB. From here, there is this option that says Format as USB Extended Storage. And if you press this and you have a compatible drive, well, then it will format it into the drive that you need it to be in order to copy those files back over. Now, unfortunately, the drive that I have available is not 250 gigabytes that I use for testing. So I don't have a drive at the moment that I can use to test this out personally. But you should definitely give it a shot. It does work, so I don't think there is a lot that I would really have to offer there. And that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Michael